Hello and welcome to the Festive Tech Calendar 2022 and to the door number 16. And you see the doors open and you see that we will start with a session about Azure Automanage. And yeah, welcome, and we will dive into the session. And firstly, my name is Gregor Reimling. I'm a cloud consultant at the Adesso SE in Germany, and my focus topics are Azure governance, security, and infrastructure as a services. So I'm more underway in the services around VMs, placing VMs in Azure, making a good governance concept in it, working on the Azure Policy side, and secure the whole environment with Defender, Defender for servers, and so on. So when you will see more from me, take a look at my YouTube channel or take also a look at my webpage where you find some hopefully interesting articles about Azure. I have also a podcast with my colleague Thomas Nernheim, the cloudinspires.me podcast, so please take a look at there and then you can hear me also. Okay, enough for me, and now we will start into the session. And yeah, I have make some different topics about the session, and firstly I will give you an overview about Azure Automanage. We will go to the service that you can configure with Azure Automanage, to the short deployment guide with a demo. Then I give you some insights in the demo, also give you a short overview about the best practices and a conclusion. And I think so in the time frame we will start. So the first question is why you need Azure Automanage. This is quite easy because we see a lot of customers using VMs right now. So, and this you have many reasons. You will deploy your legacy applications to the cloud. Maybe you will starting with Azure. Maybe you are also in the cloud, but VMs are always there. And the most common challenge here is that you not have mostly a full standardized configuration template for all the VMs. Some VMs are related to a domain, some VMs are more single domains with no control plane, and so you have different environments, different VMs, some are in the domain, some are not, different responsible people or different people are responsible for the VMs and so on. And this is why you have really unstructured overview about your VMs. And this is why Azure Automanage comes into the play, because Azure Automanage is a bridge to bring your VMs into a good overview and brings the best practices to your VMs. And it is not, and you can use Azure Automanage on VMs in Azure and also via Azure Arc on Azure VMs out of Azure, like on your on-prem environment, like on your other cloud providers like AWS or GCP or whatever. And this is really cool, and yeah, brings, I think, is a good way to start with Azure Automanage and to take a look what the service brings. And yeah, it automates the best practice configuration for you via the service for your whole of your VMs. So I have mentioned it when you have Azure Automanage and enabled also for your VMs, like in an on-prem environment on Hyper-V cluster or VMware cluster or whatever where you have placed your VMs, Azure Arc, and brings via Azure Arc also the VMs into Azure. Then you can enable Automanage on all your VMs. And this is why you have a fully customized service provider that brings you with profiles a best configuration for your VMs on your VMs, and is available for Windows and Linux VMs. And also a good thing here is it's free of charge, the Azure Automanage itself, not the underlying service or the configured service from Azure Automanage, but I will show you this a little bit more in a second. And here you see an overview about Azure Automanage, and these are the services that will be configured from Azure Automanage. And this means all these services that you see here will be configured via Azure Automanage on your VM. You can easily deploy your custom profiles and easily say, I only need some of these services on my VMs, on my whole VM set. And then you can also use custom profiles to realize this also. And the good thing here is the service is GA, but I must say I missed some features in the GA announcement, so I was also in the preview program, and I hoped that some more configuration settings coming to Azure Automesh with the GA announcement, but this is not the case right now. But I think Microsoft will improve the service into the next in the next couple of months. So I think then you have another good features in there. But I will show you some points and pain points also in the demo. So firstly, we will start with the requirements, and here you see you can start with all your Windows versions from start of Windows Server 2012. You can use all this supported Windows version and enable Azure Automesh for this server versions. You can also enable or configure clients like Windows 10 or Windows 11, and also you have a whole list of Linux distributions that are also supported via Azure Automesh. A little pain point here is that Azure Automesh are actually not available in all regions. You see here a list from the available regions right now, but please take a look. Maybe they have supported or extended the supported regions. So take a look at the Azure Automesh supported regions plate to see some additional supported regions. Okay, and the next one is you can actually only use Azure Automanage with pay-as-you-go subscription. This means you cannot enable Azure Automanage on some MSDN subscriptions or some evaluation subscriptions. But this is mostly not the case, so the main customers have a pay-as-you-go subscription, then you can really easily start with Azure Automanage. Okay. How you can activate the service? This is also easy. You can see found resource provider. This is new with the Azure Automesh service under your subscription, and there you can activate the resource provider. Then you, with this on this way, you also enable Azure Automesh for your whole subscription. You can also start directly with Azure Automesh. Then, when you have the correct rights, the service will be itself enable the correct resource provider for your environment. What I have also mentioned is in the default configuration, when you start with Azure Automanage, it comes with two default profiles, like the production and dev test profile, but you can easily deploy additional custom profiles. And here you see when you register the Azure Automanage provider, it will be, maybe take the automatically when you have the correct rights here. Okay, before we start into the service, I will give you a short overview about the difference, because we have some different Windows and Linux VMs, but more different Windows VMs when we take a look into Azure or outside of Azure. When you have the whole view and not take a look into Azure, you have Windows VMs and Linux VMs, and this is the same as you use this in Azure or via Azure Arc, and brings the VMs like supported Linux distributions or also Windows servers via Azure Arc into your tenant. The good thing here is that when you use Windows Server Azure Edition, and this edition is only available into your marketplace or into your Azure environment via the marketplace, then you have some additional services, like you see here, the hot patch functionality, SMB over QUIC, or extended network functionality from Azure. And with Azure Automanage, this service will be supported from Automesh itself. Also, this means you can really use Automesh for all your Windows VMs, including the new Windows Server Azure Edition. So, I think enough of the words. We will start into a short demo. moment, I will going to my dashboard. So here you see my development tenant, and I have also, we will start firstly with this, and I have going to the Azure Automesh service, so you can easily type auto, and then you see the first service is Azure Automanage. We're going to this, you see a quite clear board because there's actually not really many things to configure. Post. And this means, so we will firstly start with the configuration side, where you see that the two built-in policies or the two built-in profiles, what I have mentioned, the production and F-test profile. And when we take a look at the production profile, we see that some services are enabled or all the services are configured per default for Microsoft. You see also a note which services currently not supported on the Azure Arc side. This means when you integrate servers or VMs via Azure Arc into your tenant, some of the services from Azure Automesh are currently not supported for Azure Arc machines. So then you see the whole configuration here on the different services that I have show you in the picture. Please take a look at this. You see here in the production profile, backup is enabled, and when we take a look at the Azure best practice dev test and profile, you see the difference here to the production profile is the backup solution is disabled by default. But you can, what I have mentioned, you can easily create your own profile. When we take a look at here, you can say, I will name Festive Tech Calendar 2. And then I select a resource group. I have created one for this session. And then you can easily say, I will enable backup with the instant restore point, with retention policy for the VM or for all the VMs that are enrolled with this profile and so on. And then we're going a little bit deeper, and you see the anti-malware servers, the inside monitoring, manage Automanage machine configuration. This is more the Azure Policy in Gust configuration. I mean, this is also the new name for this. You see the update management. Also a short note on this is currently not the new update management center solution. When you enroll this means it will be enrolled the old model like with the Azure Automation account. I hope this will be also changed in the next couple of versions. And then you see you have Log Analytics workspace, which is enabled by default. Also the automation account itself for the update management also. And you can also enable the Windows Admin Center solution. Okay, then you can create the profile. You see it will be created. The second important point here is when you take a look at the profile, you cannot change the profile. And this is because when you enroll a VM with this profile, these settings are standardized and cannot be changed. You can say, I will set up a new profile, no problem, and then you must be changed when you have new settings for your VMs or for a group of VMs, but then you have to change the VM from the old profile to a new profile to change the service configuration from Azure Automesh. So this means when you set up a profile and select and click OK, the profile is closed and you cannot change it, and your VMs will be directly enrolled with this profile what you can select. And this brings us to the enrollment process, and this is also easy. You can say, I will this enable on an existing machine. Then you can select between the both built-in profiles, or you can also select your custom profile. Select the custom profile. I will select this one, and then you can also select your machines. You see all your machines into your tenant. Currently, only that you can see via when you have the correct rights. But I will select the second one here. This is also enrolled, but you see this can you not see here. But this is currently enrolled in the Automanage plate, so we can take a look at this here. One moment. Automanage machines, and here you see that we have one machine enrolled via the Automanage service, the one, and I will enroll the selected profile on the second Festive Tech Calendar client. Going to the next one, they will be validated. It's a VM supported with this profile, and then you can select create or click on create, and then you see it will be enrolled. You see the status here, and you see also the confirmation. So the question here, and I hope you have the question in mind, is why you cannot set up some existing service. So currently we have all our some have started with Azure, have also a tenant, and you have also enrolled a log analytics workspace. You have also enrolled a recovery service vault, and you have the wish to select in the profile an existing recovery service vault or an existing log analytics workspace. This is currently not supported via the portal, but you can use make this via the ARM template. I will show you this in some minutes. Okay, so we're going back, and you see it will be enrolled. It's in progress. When we take a look at the resource groups, and I have only only a few resource groups in this tenant. You see I have here a Festival Tech Calendar where resides my VMs, and you see not other things, but when I take a look at the show hidden items, you see also the policies that I have configured for Azure Automesh. These are the profiles that I have configured here and also here. And then you see some additional services that will be set up from the Windows Azure or from the Azure Automanage service itself. But the magic also is, and this is also important because when you have some policy enforcement in place, is that Azure Automanage deploy in the backend a new resource group where you can find it here. It's called default resource group West Europe. I doesn't like the name. You can also change it via ARM template, but when you will enroll Azure Automanage via the portal, it will be deploy with a predefined name, and they doesn't use text. And in some tenants, it is a challenge or it's a problem because some policies will be needed text, and when you not disable the policy or you have an enforcement of the policy to using text, then the deployment will be failed because the automatically enrollment of the process doesn't use text. And then you see what I have mentioned in the portal. When you use a portal to deploy the Azure Automanage service itself, it will be only use predefined service or configure default services, and you see the whole solution here. And I think this is not really the best way, because what I have mentioned, you have some existing log analytics workspace with your own name set, also with your own default backup and so on. But you see I have enrolled this quite new, and you see this is really the case that Azure Automanage currently set up the whole configuration for these VMs. When you then say I will enroll as a profile on a second, on a third VM, it will always be used the same services because the services are bound to the profile. Okay, I will show you some, one moment. here you see some additional things, and here you see that the resource provider will be registered itself when you have the correct rights when you deploy the Azure Automanage service or when you deploy the first profile on the Azure Automanage page. Okay. Then we take a look at the second tenant, and not the current one. I think this is the best one, yeah. And here we go to the next one, and that's what I mentioned. You see some machines. Somewhere you see this is the icon for Azure Arc machines. So what I have mentioned, you can also deploy or you can also use Azure Automesh to deploy the services to Azure Arc machines. And then you see that some machines are not confirmed, and you can take a look at this. And then you see what are here. This is what is the reason, because it's failed to deploy because the environment tag it's enforced for this environment via the Azure Policy, and you cannot deploy the service because the service itself doesn't use tags when you use the portal blade to deploy it. Other thing here is the action required thing is when you have this error, please to unregister and register the service itself. But this is only the point when you have used Azure Automanage in the past in the evaluation phase, because Microsoft has announced a new API version for Azure Automanage, and this means the failure here or the error here is related to the old API, to the API model, and you can change this to the new API model, but currently you have to unmanage or to de-enroll the VM and to re-enroll the service that the currently new API provider will be worked, and then the error here will be gone. Okay, I hope I give you a short overview about some of the good things about Azure Automesh, some of the not so, or of the things that can be improved from Microsoft. But from my perspective, it's really a good and great solution to start, because what I have mentioned, many environments doesn't have a good standardized configuration set for his VMs, and I think this is a good way to start. Some point here is also you can also enroll Azure Automanage via policy. This brings us to when you have a management group structure where you have different subscriptions, then you can easily say, I will bring the VMs via Azure Arc into my tenant, but I will also enroll some custom profiles here for some dev test environments in a separate subscription or maybe in a separate resource group, and I have another subscription where I will deploy another profile, and this can be also easily made via Azure Policy. Okay, back to the slides. Yeah, what I've mentioned here, you see you have actually two built-in policies via Azure Policy, and you can easily onboard your VMs in the subscription or in the resource group with this policy, and you can then select you will be onboarded. The difference here is you can select with this policy the built-in profiles, and with this policy the custom configuration profile where you have created. I really prefer to always start with custom profiles, because then you can really set up the whole things. But I also really currently, and this is related because you are really limited on the configuration side in the portal blade to use ARM templates to deploy Azure Automanage to your whole VMs, because then you also can configure an existing log analytics workspace, an existing recovery service vault, and then you have really the freedom to choose your service and to bring all your services, also your existing service, to your VMs. And yeah, what is good to know, what I have mentioned also, you cannot profiles after the creation, because then they are closed, but you can move a VM from a profile to another profile to change the settings. The really important point is here also, when you deactivate the Automanage service for a VM, this doesn't change any of the currently activated setting. What this means, Azure Automesh is only the provider or the automation to set up all the things that you have seen in the picture, like backup, log analytics workspace, and so on your VMs. And Automanage will enroll the VMs into the services, and when you deactivate Automanage on the VM, the service will still exist, and you also have to pay for the service, like for backup, for log analytics and workspace, and so on. And the costs also will be charged because you currently use all those services. To bring out services or to bring out VMs from this service, you have to configure a script or also some manual step, but Automanage is currently only to enable this service on your VM. And when it's on or it's enabled on the VM, it will be every time monitored the configuration of the VM, that the configuration of the VM is in the way or currently clear or equal to the profile. This is the way. It's equal to the profile. And this means when you disable Automanage, it will be stopped directly, the configuration, the monitoring of the profile, of the equal profile setup, and this is the case. But the service will be not deactivated, and you will be still charge the service to continue to charge the service. Okay, currently it's not supported for VM scale sets, and Automanage is only available for VMs. Maybe it's coming for containers or whatever, but currently Automanage is only a service provider for your VM. Okay, here you have some links for the service and from interesting things for the Azure Automanage services, also to some interesting topics from the docs side, and I will share also the presentation and the slides a little bit later on my GitHub page, and then you can also dive into these links. And when you have questions, please feel free to reach me via Twitter, via LinkedIn, or take also a view on my blog. And yeah, thank you for choose my session on the Festive Tech Calendar. Please leave me a like when you like the session. Please give me also a comment what I can improve, and I hope you enjoy also your Christmas time. Wish you a great start into the new year, and hopefully to see you on the next year. Bye bye.